Welcome back, subscribers, and welcome new viewers. And I want to thank again all my subscribers and everyone that likes and shares these videos, because that assists in getting all of my videos out to each and every one of those who are seeking, just like you, to see these videos so that they possibly, hopefully, can also be assisted. All right, today, another viewer request for Chiron, and it's going to be Chiron in Aquarius or the 11th house. Okay. In the 11th house, we seek groups of like-minded people in order to widen our social sphere. We stand back from society to reflect on and perhaps to criticize the wider collective context of politics and history. We may want to reform the world we see and become involved in a social or political causes dedicated to improving the human lot. Individuals with Chiron in the last two houses and signs, which is 11th house, 12th house, and Aquarius in Pisces, as well as those with Chiron in the 8th house and or Scorpio, are often intensely connected to the deeper psyche and the collective unconscious, but also vigorously defended against it. It takes considerable strength to be able to give expression to collective ideas, which is the 11th house, or feelings, which is the 12th house, without being carried away by them and losing our individuality in the process. However, Chiron in these houses and signs offers the possibility of our being able to do just this, although we usually pay a price in terms of feeling somewhat isolated in our journey. Saturn and Uranus are the dual rulers of the sign of Aquarius. With Chiron here, or in the 11th house, we see the themes of these two planets interwoven. Some individuals with this placement will appear more Saturnian, others more Uranian. But, as explored in Chapter 5, Chiron's place between them suggests a both-and perspective. Those with Chiron in Aquarius experience Chiron opposite its natal place just before their Saturn return. Okay. This creates problems with the Saturn return, as the Chiron opposition may make us impatient with limitation and reluctant to face issues from the past, which tend to surface around the Saturn return. We perhaps try and skirt responsibilities in a bid for freedom, with the result that a crisis erupts at the next Saturn or Saturn square at about the age of 35. Our first Saturn return, or second Saturn return, is early 30s, 29 to 31, I believe. And I believe that's the second one, because I believe the first one comes, I'm not sure of the age, but I know for sure one of the major Saturn returns is age 29 through 31. And you can look back on that, any of us who are past that age now, and see there was a major change, whether it was a divorce, a marriage, a child, or whatever that might be. And so they're talking about that, and they're talking about also when those of us reach Saturn squaring, and I'm not sure what that date would, what age range that would be at this moment. But if any of you are interested and you want to know, send me an email, send me a comment, and I will find out for you. However, some people experience this Chiron and Chiron opposition as an influx of creative energy and may take strides forward in self-expression and social participation. I'm so sorry. I had to reprimand my little puppy. She was getting a little playful, as you probably heard her. So I hope that didn't interrupt us too terribly bad. Okay. With Chiron in Aquarius or the 11th house, we are vulnerable to the collective unconscious in the sphere of ideas and ideals. Hold on one moment. I'm going to have to put her in the other room. I apologize. Just one moment. Let me let her out. Okay, come on. Out. Okay, I'm so sorry about that. She's just a little over 3 months old. And so she was a little too playful right now for what we are doing here. So again, I apologize for that interruption, but anyway, she is the cutest little thing. I just love her I love her so much. Okay, back to this. Let me start again at this paragraph. With Chiron in Aquarius or the 11th house, we are vulnerable to the collective unconscious in the sphere of ideas and ideals. Although we have the potential to be original and iconoclastic thinkers, we are also prone to taking on stereotyped attitudes. Rather than risk expressing our own opinions, we may adopt a party line of some kind, following the political or spiritual aspirations of the group to which we belong. We could become enslaved by the ideas of another person, not realizing that these hinder our own development. We may take on and subsequently reject many different systems of ideas on our quest. With this Chiron placement, we benefit by learning to use our own individual minds creatively, concretely, and with rational discrimination. If we can build a suitably Saturnian vehicle for the Uranian energy of our thoughts, we may find ourselves able to make an important contribution to others through our truly independent thinking. Oh, I like that. In this process, we will perhaps discover many useless shoulds and oughts, which we are slavishly believing or obeying. With Chiron in the 11th house or Aquarius, we can use, let me start over again, I apologize. With Chiron in the 11th house or Aquarius, we can usefully direct our iconoclastic tendencies towards our own belief systems, allowing the quality of our own thinking to be revolutionized first, rather than participating unthinkingly in collective movements dedicated to social or political change. Whoa. That was a loud noise. Some people with Chiron in Aquarius or the 11th house become the vehicle for controversial collective ideas and often suffer from the response they receive, as they may be way ahead of their time. I just want to put out there, it seems in this reading, this is the first reading I've ever done that I've had so many interruptions. So I don't know, maybe if you viewers at this same time you're viewing this are also getting interrupted, or maybe that's the energy, maybe you feel like that right now. I don't know, but that's pretty amazing. I just thought I'd put that out there. It doesn't have to be correct or true for everyone, but I thought someone might find that interesting. Okay. Some people with Chiron in Aquarius or the 11th house become the vehicle for controversial collective ideas and often suffer from the response they receive, as they may be way ahead of their time. That's absolutely correct. As we know, Aquarians, they are 30 to 50 years ahead of their time. And of course, so everyone else, so they are out ahead, and it's quite lonely. It can definitely be quite lonely at the top. They could be writers, poets, teachers, or philosophers, all of whom influence people's thinking by formulating what is ready to become conscious within the collective mind. Amongst those with this Chiron placement, we find many people whose names have become almost synonymous with a system of ideas. For example, the French playwright and philosopher Jean-Paul, I cannot pronounce his last name, Sartre, has Chiron in Aquarius. He was the existentialist par excellence. The English playwright George Bernard Shaw was notorious for his vehement support of socialist philosophy. The author Laurens von der Post, I hope I'm saying that correctly, has Chiron in Aquarius in the 4th house. Through him, many people have become aware of the beauty of the inner world, it's a specific tribe, and I can't pronounce this, Khoikhoi, and other tribes that are vanishing from Africa. Wow. Okay, well, I'm going to skip forward because I'm keeping this a general reading. So, of course, any of you who want this, a copy of the text, just leave me an email and I will absolutely do that for you. Let's see. With Chiron in Aquarius or the 11th house, we may be intensely critical of society or reject it as far as possible. Underneath, however, we may have a strong desire to make a positive contribution. We might become depressed and angry if we cannot find a way to do this. The urge then sours into acts of rebellion, destructiveness, and anarchy. We find it difficult to accept how things are now and to work for change on that basis. If we embrace spiritual or utopian ideals and study revolutionary political frameworks, we will probably become progressively disillusioned as we realize that there is no perfect system or person on earth. Although we perhaps fervently believe that we know how things ought to be, we also need to learn humility, lest we espouse, quote, new ideas, ideals, or ways of life with as much rigidity as the old system we have rejected, and thus fall into our own shadow. With Chiron in Aquarius or the 11th house, however, we potentially have the gift for balancing the opposites represented by Saturn and Uranus. Saturn is very, it's authority figures. It's very sticking to the rules. It holds you back to ensure that you do things correctly. That's the general, what Saturn is. And wherever Saturn's in your chart, then that's going to do the same thing. Okay, and so then Uranus is the opposite. It's quick change. So Chiron, it's about balancing those two. Wow, with Chiron in the 11th house or in Aquarius. We then truly bridge the old and the new. We are able to embrace innovation without wholesale rejection of the past, incorporating it as a firm foundation to our individual life and connection with society. We positively influence others by our example of creative non-conformism, rather than by trying to convince them that our ideas are, quote, right. We uphold our own individuality, which is Leo in the 5th house, which is the opposite of the 11th house and Aquarius, and make a positive contribution to the collective in which we live, although we are unlikely to belong to the status quo. Well, that makes sense. That makes sense. That's good. That's good. I like that. Through acceptance of limitation and imperfection, we can allow others to find their own way, rather than imposing our ideas upon them. Yes. Some individuals with Chiron and Aquarius find it almost impossible to relate in a feeling way to people whose mental constructs are different from their own. You may begin to feel somewhat unreal yourself around such a person, as you do not exist for them unless you subscribe to the same ideals and political or spiritual beliefs. Astrologers, psychotherapists, and those involved in various metaphysical arts or spiritual disciplines, are not exempt from this. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. The whole of life can be seen through the binoculars of our own system of beliefs, and anything that does not fit is ignored, dismissed, or pruned to fit. Our clients may be subtly manipulated to conform with our own reality system or pet beliefs. In these fields, once something becomes a should, we are treading near the perilous area of mind control, and perhaps need to remember that the map is not the territory. It is sobering to realize that the media brainwashes us every day. That is absolutely true. Absolutely. Influencing us to think in certain ways, to hold certain attitudes, and so on. Even this book is doing it. That's right. That's absolutely correct. With Chiron in Aquarius or the 11th house, useful questions might be, whose ideas am I actually receiving? Or whose truth am I believing? Collective images and ideas, from news reportage to advertisements, create our worldview and influence our attitudes, aspirations, and ideals. Without an exercise of Aquarian detachment, we succumb to subtle forms of thought control, reminiscent of George Orwell's 1984. Absolutely. Oh my goodness. And I just have to say, what's going on, what's coming out now, because we are in the Aquarian age. We've just begun the Aquarian age. Truths are coming out. And yes, we've absolutely, if you don't know, viewers, or anything about George Orwell's 1984 book, or what that's about, oh, I encourage you to get it and read it, because that's exactly what's been going on for thousands of years. For thousands of years. And definitely for the last 200, 300 years. And it's just beginning to come out, the truths of how completely this whole way of life, we've all been manipulated. We've all been tricked. Coming out of the Piscean age. Piscean age has to do with subconscious, has to do with fantasy and deceit and secrecy. It's just amazing. Okay. Yeah, that is so amazing. Okay, and this book is also saying George Orwell, or the author of that book, he has Chiron in Capricorn and Saturn in Aquarius. That's cool. That's cool. With Chiron in Aquarius or the 11th house, we could be oversensitive to getting it right and tie ourselves in knots trying to live up to spiritual ideals. Oh, again, I can't, any of you who have never looked at your natal wheel, never had your natal wheel done, I encourage you, absolutely do that. Find out what your north and south nodes of the moon are. And again, I'm an astrologer of going on 26 years now, and I don't know of any other astrologer since I began 26 years ago that even they just skim over the top of our north and south nodes of the moon. I just, and it's unbelievable. But so that's why that is my specialty. That is my specialty, because that is the very place where each and every one of our personal work lies in this life, on this earth. Okay. So just leave me an email, or send me an email, leave me a comment if that sounds like something you would like me to do, whether it's I can do free wheels, I can also send you written copies of your north and south nodes of the moon, of your wheel, whatever you'd like. Anyway, just let me know. Okay. And I work on donations. So I do not have any specific monetary value to this information. So that's for you to choose, your discretion, because I'm not going to deny anyone any of this information. This is invaluable to each and every one of us and our personal growth. And maybe some of you have a service of your own. You'd like to do trading, or you have a product you'd like to trade for my services. That'd be great. Whatever you choose, just let me know. Okay, so yes, we have perhaps transferred on to our belief system and attempt to win love from a cold and distant parent. This attachment to perfection is destructive, for if we can only allow the perfect to live, many creative projects, relationships, and careers could go down the drain as a result. Until we have found a measure of inner freedom, we might fear commitment. However, Chiron brings the possibility of individual freedom within commitment to life. That's cool. And when it is in Aquarius, this theme is particularly strong. The story of Prometheus illustrates this, a condition of his release from bondage and suffering was the wearing of a ring to remind him of his period of enchantment. So yes, what this author's saying about the fear of commitment, especially for Aquarius, Chiron and Aquarius, or the 11th house, because that has to do with Aquarius, because Aquarius has everything to do with freedom and having freedom and making sure that their freedom is always, that they are never tied down by anything or anyone, so that their freedom is never ever squelched. And so that is why Chiron, the wounding and the healing, that's why it's the wounded healer. So that makes sense. With this Chiron placement, we might have a horror of groups and the collective, partly because we are sensitive to being influenced and taken over by collective ideas. Oh yeah, that makes sense. And maybe some of you are empaths. You're sensitives anyway. You're sensitive to energies, to frequencies, and it does. You have to master that, or you can absolutely be taken over, and you don't even know it. Yeah, I'm very, very aware of that. So yes, I have an understanding of that. Perhaps we only feel comfortable when we are in charge ourselves, or playing the role of the outsider or dissenter. We could project the figure of the wounder onto the group and become paranoid and seek to protect ourselves by withdrawal or aggressive behavior. Martin Luther King said, quote, "There is nothing as powerful as an idea whose time has come," unquote. Some people with this placement have consciously opposed the collective. They have been creatively iconoclastic and facilitated social change. Emmeline Pankhurst, who won voting rights for women in Britain, has Chiron in Aquarius in the 12th house. Okay, and I'm going to fast forward that. Okay, women with this placement frequently have trouble in their relationships with their fathers. That makes sense, because Saturn has to do with authority figures. And who is our first authority figure? Our father. And sometimes our mother plays that role as well. Just depends. I'm going to start that sentence again. That's very, very essential. Women with this placement frequently have trouble in their relationships with their fathers, who perhaps personify the more difficult Aquarian qualities. They may have been cold, critical, distant, unfeeling, and authoritarian. Conversely, one woman with Chiron in Aquarius said she felt that her mind was wounded through recognizing at an early age that she was the most intelligent person in the family. Her father was a particularly earthy person. He learned to deny her superior mental development and her own abilities in order to feel her father bigger and stronger than herself. Clarity, detachment, a highly developed sense of political or social potential, and an ability to articulate current trends within the collective are some of the gifts of this placement. But these too are double-edged swords, which need tempering by the humility of having felt our own suffering and accepted the imperfections inherent in life. Okay, that is all I have for you. Okay, if you have any questions or comments, I'd love to hear from you. All right, until next time.